Junichi is a loser virgin who can't get his pickle wet. But everything changes when he is dared to ask the hottest girl at school to be her girlfriend, and it turns him into the Chad that all girls want as their baby daddy. It was a new high school semester. Junichi looks around to see himself surrounded by couples looking to tickle their pickles. Meanwhile, Junichi and his virgin loser friend group are not part of the fun as girls avoid them like the plague. They look around the classroom to see couples flirting, and Shinpei, Junichi's blue-haired friend, thinks that students should study and not procreate. Junichi starts wondering how a peak male specimen like himself is unable to bag a baddie by now. Then a girl with melons bigger than her head, Nin, comes into the class looking for Junichi. She comes to bring Junichi the lunchbox that he left behind and teases him about liking her oddly disproportionate body. But Junichi and his dumb head can't take a hint. One of his friends, Kigo, starts teasing Junichi for being able to talk to girls, and the others beg him to teach them how. Junichi assures them that Nin is just his classic childhood friend who he sees as his little sister.
Are you sure about that?
His friends ask Junichi to introduce her to them and start imagining the degenerate scenario where they finally get lucky. Junichi calls his friends weird and jailbound, but they defend themselves and call Junichi a prude for not wanting to go ham on Nin and her sweet puppies. Then a beautiful black-haired girl, Yua, enters the classroom and greets Junichi for being in the same class as her. She feels happy that they get to be in the same class again and hopes that he starts talking to her like a normal person and not a weirdo. Junichi's friends start examining Yui's anime-like beauty and her unfortunate lack of melons, but Junichi defends her by saying flat jugs fill a man's heart. Then Shinpei and the others start reading some adult magazines in class, and the whole class starts to understand why they are virgin losers. Junichi starts questioning his friendship, and Shinpei offers to join them in their degeneracy. Suddenly, a girl calls them out, and Junichi accidentally throws the magazine at her feet. Junichi tries to save face, but the girl tells Junichi that he is a being lower than a 3-day-old dogshit. And Junichi starts shivering his pants and crying, thinking that gals are scary. Later, the boys start discussing the girl, Yukana, and wish that she would step on them and ask them to bark for her. Shinpei suggests an idea that one of them should try and ask her to be their girlfriend. Junichi tells them it's a bad idea, but Shinpei tells him that girls like Yukana are easy. Shinpei shows his source of information from an adult magazine which says that girls like Yukana change men every night. Junichi believes what he said and starts imagining where Yukana uses her experience to show him a peek of heaven covered behind her clothes. Then she starts touching his hard tent, devours his ear, and twists his pepperonis before she opens her shirt and shows him what her godly tongue can do. Junichi starts getting pumped after imagining the possibilities. Meanwhile, the boys have decided to sacrifice Junichi to play a prank and confess his feelings to Yukana. Junichi tries to decline, but Shinpei convinces him to just go down on his knees and beg her to be his baby mama, and she will accept. Then, Shinpei asks Minoru to restrain Junichi, while Kigo goes to Yukana's locker to place a love letter for her. Afterward, Yukana opens her locker and finds the letter. She reads the letter and tells her friend, Ranko, that she needs to go somewhere alone. Then Junichi goes face-to-face with Yukana, and Junichi can't believe that she would actually show up. He starts feeling his legs tremble out of fear, but he remembers his friend's advice. So he gathers the courage for the sake of getting his cherry popped and starts begging Yukana to date him. Yukana looks at him and calls him disgusting, as he were the guy who read an adult magazine in class. Junichi starts feeling his knees trembling as he imagines how society would look at him as a virgin loser. Suddenly, he sees Yukana's panties while he's begging and formulates a plan to see more of them. Yukana asks him to get up, but Junichi refuses and Yukana sees it as his strong will to date her. Then, Yukana asks Junichi why she likes him, and Junichi starts grasping for answers out of thin air. He answers that he likes his bitchy side, but she exposes him that he just wants her to take away his virginity.
You got me.
Yukana tells him that she's very careful about those things and she refuses to date him for that reason. Junichi starts panicking as it is his reason and starts imagining a future where all girls avoid him. Junichi starts thinking that he should run, but then catches another glimpse of her white panties and awakens his inner animal. Then Junichi refuses to get up, but Yukana tells him that she knows that he's staring at her panties and catches him off guard. Suddenly, Yukana crouches with him and gets closer to him. She tells him that in this position, Junichi could see it even better. Then, Junichi folds and looks down to see her hands covering it up. Yukana starts laughing and teasing him for being a weak-minded virgin. Suddenly, Yukana becomes serious and asks Junichi if he actually likes her. Junichi refuses to fall for her tricks again and gets up to leave. But Yukana stops him from leaving, pushes him to a wall, and tells him that she likes him. Then she tells him that they should start going out, and Junichi loses his head. Later at night, Junichi still can't believe that a smoke show like Yukana would date a wimp like him. He starts doubting himself, while his subconscious argues whether or not the relationship is serious. Suddenly, his degenerate consciousness shows up and tells him that all that matters is if they finally get their pickle tickled. Then, he starts imagining a fantasy where Yukana gets on top of him in the classroom and does the deed with him, but he wakes up to reality. The next day, Junichi's friends confront him on his way to school. They apologize for making him confess to Yukana and ask him how Yukana rejected him. Junichi tells the boys that Yukana might plan to tell the whole school what happened and destroy his high school life. The boys tell him that whatever happens next, they will always be his boys, and Junichi starts crying tears of joy. Suddenly, Junichi receives a text, and it's a selfie from Yukana in her bathrobe. The boys start going apeshit and suddenly treat Junichi like trash for being able to get a girl. Junichi tries to explain his situation, but Shinpei asks him if they have kissed yet. He explains that a gal like Yukana treats kisses like a hello and uses her tongue as a sign of greeting. Junichi starts imagining getting a kiss and gets excited. Then, Shinpei teaches him what to do next, and he tells Junichi that he has to invite Yukana to a karaoke. Shinpei explains that karaoke is a way for guys and gals like Yukana to get a room for them to go wild between couples. Shinpei starts bleeding and dramatically tells Junichi to invite his gal to a karaoke to do the deed. At school, Yu asks Junichi why he looks conflicted and offers to loosen him up if needed. Suddenly, Yukana pops up and holds his arm between her jugs, rebooting his brain. They start getting chummy with each other, and Yu asks if they are always that close. Yukana tells the whole class that they are dating, sending shockwaves even to the gods. After school, Junichi is still trying to find a way to ask Yukana to a karaoke, but she's occupied with all her friends. The boys leave to go home without him, and Junichi chases them. They tell Junichi that a Chad should not hang out with losers like them anymore, and that he should go and touch grass with his new girlfriend. Then, Yukana goes to Junichi and asks him to spend some time with her after school. Meanwhile, Min is waiting to go home with Junichi, but she sees him going home with Yukana together. She can't believe what she's seeing, and after knowing that they're dating, Min starts crying and runs away. Junichi asks Yukana where she's taking him, and she answers a place where they can make a lot of happy noises together.
That's what I'm talking about.
Then they go to a karaoke, and Junichi starts remembering what his master, Shinpei, taught him. Afterward, Junichi is stuck thinking about whether he should sing rock songs or Ariana Grande. He sees a warning on the walls saying that adultery is not allowed. Yukana comes in and brings them some drinks. Then she walks and jiggles her melons past him to get to her seat. Junichi starts sweating balls and imagines a scenario where they break the rules and sing the song of love noises instead. She rubs herself on his sausage and gives it a sweet grip massage. Junichi goes back to his senses and sees that Yukana is singing and having a great time. Junichi starts panicking as all the songs he knows are lame anime songs that will give Yukana the ick. Then, Junichi realizes that Yukana is singing a song about the birds and the bees. Yukana picks another song, and it turns out to be an anime song that he knows, and asks him to sing together. With time passing by, Junichi starts having fun and enjoys himself without thinking about what's between his legs. He notices that Yukana is trying to get him to relax and realizes that Shinpei's teachings are coming true. Then, Yukana feels hot and takes off a layer of clothes, fulfilling Shinpei's prophetic predictions of couples who go to karaoke. Junichi's subconscious can't believe what they are seeing, and his chattest version comes out. Chad Junichi tells them that they have to be a real man and treat Yukana with respect by giving her a passionate, sloppy French kiss before making glorious love.
It's all coming together.
In reality, Junichi makes up his mind and puts his hands between Yukana to go in for the kiss. Suddenly, Yukana tells him that he has a nose hair sticking out, and it cucks him from getting some action. Then, Yukana leaves the room and blushes at Junichi's nose hair rise. Afterward, Junichi is haunted by his nose hair, stopping him from laying the pipe. But Yukana tells him that she had fun and would love to go to karaoke with him again. Meanwhile, Yukana's friend, Ranko, is stalking them. The next day, Junichi opens his locker to find a love letter. He opens it, and it says that she will be waiting for him behind school. It turns out his friends are there with him, and they start crying and questioning what bitch is dumb enough to leave a love letter to him.
Certainly not I.
They encourage him to find out who she is, but Junichi feels that he should tell Yukana about this. Shinpei gaslights him into thinking that Yukana will hate Junichi if he ignores someone's love letter, and Junichi believes him. Then he meets the girl, and it turns out to be Ranko. Ranko approaches him and starts smelling him. She quickly knows that Junichi is still a virgin, and that surprises him. His heartbeats start getting stronger, and Ranko can even hear it. She pushes her melons and starts rubbing him. Then she tells him that he's naughty for getting excited about another girl and offers to devour his sausage. Junichi feels nervous and falls to the floor. Ranko ups her game and sits on him, tempting him to lay the pipe. Suddenly, Yukana shows up and accuses him of cheating. Junichi tries to explain, but Ranko moves her hips around to make him lose focus. Suddenly, Yukana seems to be cool with the whole thing and asks Ranko to take turns, confusing Junichi in the process. Yukana introduces Ranko to Junichi as her best friend since they were kids. Ranko starts talking about Yukana's heavies and plays with them, blessing our eyes and ears in the process. Yukana starts making some happy noises, while Junichi stands and watches the two girls in action like a good little puppy drooling for a bone. Ranko asks Yukana how far she has gone with Junichi, and Yukana comes to her senses. Yukana pulls Junichi to walk home with her, and she tells him to be careful around Ranko. At home, Junichi receives a text from Yukana asking him to go out with Ranko as the third wheel. The next day, the three of them hang out together while Ranko keeps disrupting the couple from getting too chummy with each other. Later, Neem runs into them and starts crying after realizing that Junichi didn't include her in his new harem. Then, they go to a clothing store and start looking at girls' clothes. Yukana asks Junichi for his opinion about the two clothes she chose, and Junichi starts imagining her wearing them to present herself to him. Junichi chooses one option, but Ranko comes in and tells her the other one fits her better. Later, they go to a dress store, and Yukana wears a beautiful dress in front of Junichi, leaving him speechless. Yukana demands him to give an opinion, but all he's looking at is her melons. And it upsets Yukana. Afterwards, some dudes come harassing Yukana, promising to give her a good time. Junichi tries to step up and be a cool boyfriend and stop them, but instead gets his ass handed to him. Then Ranko steps up and tells the creeps that she will take them both herself, and they agree. A few minutes later, Ranko comes back after beating them up. Later, Junichi goes home with his tail between his legs after his pathetic attempt to protect his girlfriend. Suddenly, Ranko is waiting for him in front of his house and praises him for trying to protect them, before telling him that she likes him. Then, Ranko pulls Junichi into his house and starts taking the initiative. She gets on his lap and starts tempting him to lay the pipe on her to pop his cherry. She tells him that she will give him what Yukana won't and finally fulfill his dream of getting his virginity taken. He starts folding, and Ranko continues humping on top of him. Junichi starts remembering Yukana's happy face, and he pushes Ranko to the ground. He tells her that he's not just a loser looking to get lucky, but he is a guy who wants to lose his virginity to his girlfriend. Ranko gets angry and pushes him to the ground. She tells him to get his fat willy away from Yukana and starts asking why Yukana chose to date him in the first place. Ranko refuses to lose to him, and Junichi realizes that Ranko has feelings for Yukana. Suddenly, Yukana shows up and starts accusing them of cheating as she doesn't hear what just happened. Ranko saves herself by saying that she is only testing Junichi's loyalty to Yukana. Yukana believes her and tells Ranko to support her relationship with Junichi. Then she tells Ranko that she loves her, and Ranko starts crying while apologizing to Yukana. The next day, Ranko tells Junichi that she still doesn't support his relationship and tells him to keep his mouth shut over her feelings for Yukana. Meanwhile, Yu is listening in on them, and she can't believe that Junichi would date someone else. It turns out that Yua is a narcissistic bitch who thinks that the world revolves around her, and when she first meets Junichi, she only sees him as a dog. Meanwhile, Junichi is in his room studying about gals and learns about the different kinds and tastes of gals in the name of science. Then he stumbles on a channel of a narcissistic gal named Bo, who talks about wanting to punish an arrogant boy she has a crush on and asks her audience if she should do it. The next day, Yua trades greetings with other students, but deep down, she sees them as nothing more than her servants. Everywhere she sees other people serving her in her castle. Then, Junichi walks in and hangs out with the boys. Kiko starts talking about a cute girl streamer he found, and he shares it with the boys. They start ogling over her, and Junichi notices that it's the same girl he watched the other day. Shinpei goes a step further and starts calling her an angel with the allure of an experienced gal. Then, Shinpei feels that he has met her before, and he tries to use all of his brain power to remember but fails to do so as his brain is rotten after watching Skibidi Toilet. Meanwhile, Yu is watching them from afar. Later at recess, Junichi is eating his lunch with Yukana and starts imagining degenerate thoughts. He imagines that Yukana would put a strawberry in her mouth and feed it directly to his mouth. But his imagination is ruined as Ranko is also there with them, and she tells the virgin loser to keep his thoughts to himself. Junichi looks at Ranko after what happened, and Ranko stares him back as if saying that she will bite it off.
Oh, hell no!
Suddenly, Yua shows up to bother their lunch and asks to borrow Junichi. Ranko tells her to go eat shit and go away. Yua apologizes and walks off, but she starts smiling deviously before putting back her mask. Ranko asks Junichi if he has anything to do with Yua, and Junichi says no to her. Ranko has a bad feeling about Yua. After school, Yukana tells Junichi that she is gonna hang out with her friends, and Junichi feels sad. Suddenly, Yua pops out behind him and tells him that she waited a long time to talk to him. She tells him that a teacher asked her for help, and she is hoping that Junichi will be her slave and help her carry it. Afterward, they go to a cafe and Junichi is confused as he thought that they were supposed to get some things. Junichi starts suspecting that Yu is avoiding her responsibilities and runs away from helping the teacher. He starts remembering a particular type of gal that is extremely serious called a serious gal. Then, Yua gets up and moves to the seat next to him. She tells him that the cafe is empty and starts putting her legs between Junichi's thighs. She adds that the owner of the cafe has left and that they could make as loud of noise as they want. Yua starts licking his neck, but it turns out it's all just his daydreaming.
God damn it!
Yua asks him if he is really dating Yukana, and he unconvincingly says yes. She didn't expect that someone like Junichi would go and date some bitch like Yukana.
What'd I do?
Later at night, Shinpei is doing his usual ritual of watching girl streamers. He's watching Bo, and she starts talking about how her slave goes and dates some other stupid bitch other than her. As he continues watching, he realizes who Bo really is and takes a screenshot. The next day, Junichi tries to greet Yukana, but Yua comes in, puts Junichi's arm on her, and disrupts them, making Yukana jealous. Hiding behind them is Shinpei, who is secretly recording her face. After school, Shinpei summons Minoru and Kigo to talk about something in secret. First, he shows them a picture of the girl streamer Bo, and tells them that he knows who she is. The boys start getting thirsty and ask him to introduce her to them. Shinpei calls them down and tells them that they already know who she is. He then channels his inner Sherlock Holmes and shows them a side-by-side picture comparison between Bo and Yui. The boys realize that it's a complete match, but Shinpei has more proof. He pulls out a voice recording of Bo, talking about 3 losers in his class who couldn't get some hoes. And they realize that she's talking about them. Suddenly, Ranko joins the party and demands them to share their information with her. After school, Yua is still bothering Junichi and Yukana starts feeling worried. Yua asks Junichi to help her with something again. She pulls his hand and brings him somewhere private. They go to the rooftop where no one is there, and Yua starts being sketchy. Junichi asks her what she needs help with, but Yua starts rizzing him. She tells him that she can't take it anymore, and that it's his fault that she thinks of him all the time. She gets close to him and Junichi, and his weak-willed mind starts to fold. Then, she tells him that she likes him and asks him to break up with Yukana to be her boyfriend instead. She pushes even further, telling him that he can suck her toes later, but Junichi puts his big boy pants on and declines her, telling her that he likes Yukana. Suddenly, Yua loses her head and calls him a dog. She refuses to accept the fact that she just got rejected by a loser like Junichi, and tells him that he should only wiggle his tail and bark for her as she is his master. Then she pulls out her weapon to put Junichi back on his leash and shows him her phone, which contains a video of him in a cafe with her. It turns out that she recorded their little date and is now planning to blackmail him by showing the video to Yukana. Yu demands he break up with Yukana and date her if he wants the video deleted. But suddenly Ranko and the boys show up like heroes and pose like JoJo characters. They jump down majestically and Ranko tells Yua that they were listening the whole time. Yua tells them to get lost, but Ranko goes to confront her face to face. Ranko comes close to Yua and puts her in her place. She tells Yua that she is nothing more than a flat melon bitch who needs to lick grass.
Damn!
Then she whispers that she knows her secret, being a streamer named Boa, and Yui starts glitching out of fear. Yu folds and gives up all her proof to Junichi before walking away, passing the real MVPs, the degenerates. Then Yukana shows up to go home together with Junichi. Later, Yukana asks Junichi about Yua, and he assures her that she's nothing to him. But Yukana tells him that she's not worried, as she knows that he's head over heels for her. Afterward, Junichi dreams that Yukana is in his room to wake him up and take care of his morning wood. He goes to squeeze her melons but wakes up from his sleep to see that he's squeezing another girl's balloons instead. Junichi freaks out over the sudden plot development, but realizes that he doesn't recognize who the girl is. He asks her who she is, and she starts speaking alien while trying to sound like a gal, which Junichi doesn't understand a word of. So the gal doubles down and speaks even more like a gal, which only confuses Junichi even more. Then the gal takes a step back and tells him that she's Nin, and it shocks Junichi why she's dressed like that. Later, Nin presses Junichi's arms on her big milky jugs while walking to school, and Junichi is worried that people might get the wrong idea.
Oh, really?
Then the boys show up to greet him, and Minoru, who is on the flight logs to Epstein Island, starts drooling seeing Nin.
You are a loser.
Minoru asks Junichi who's the girl in his arms, and Nin introduces herself as Junichi's childhood friend who's a year younger, and Minoru loses all interest in her. Shinpei goes to Junichi and demands him to lower down his chatness, and Kigo asks him to introduce them to her. Junichi tells them that there is nothing wrong with going to school with a childhood friend, while his arms are 4 inches deep between her badonkadonks. Nin agrees and puts Junichi's arms even deeper, and Junichi tells her to stop doing it. But Nin claims that it's on purpose, sending Shinpei and Kigo crying out of jealousy. At school, Junichi meets Yua, who is back to her old self. Yua apologizes for what happened and asks him to not tell anyone that she asked him out. Junichi assures her that he won't do it, and Yua is happy that she has manipulated him again. Then, Yua smells the scent of another woman on him, and Nin shows up to ask him to walk home with her. Junichi refuses as he plans to walk back with Yukana, and Nin starts going crazy after hearing it. Yua is angry seeing him with a new girl, and Nin realizes it. Nin teases Yua that she is taking Junichi away from her, and Nin starts talking about how she might end up being a stuck-up like Yua. Junichi tries to stop Nin, but she goes even further, calling Yua a flat hoe with the personality of a peeled potato. Yua starts charging up her red chakra out of anger, wanting to retaliate, but her classmate calls her to go back to class. She runs back and steps on Junichi's foot. In class, Junichi's soul is drained after all the character development he's experiencing, and Yukana notices his musty, sad face. She asks him what's wrong, and he explains the crisis he's facing. Yukana hugs him and asks him to go out to have fun on the weekend with her to get his mind off of his issues. The boys are jealously watching him, asking why the anime gods gave Junichi the secret juice and not them. Later at lunch, Junichi is having lunch with Yukana and Ranko. Yukana shoves a whole bread into Junichi's mouth to show him how girls feel to take it up the throat. Junichi starts to feel bliss having a 10 out of 10 as a girlfriend, but Ranko puts him back in his place as a loser. Junichi realizes that Ranko is still there as a rival, while Ranko thinks to herself that her fingers are bigger than his sausage to satisfy Yukana. Suddenly, Nin shows up and pushes her melons on Junichi after she's been looking for him. Then she starts giving him cookies and licks his cheeks, while Yukana jealously watches her man getting licked by another girl. Junichi starts imagining Yukana leaving him like the weak-willed dog he is, and Ranko beating him to a pulp before taking Yukana away from him. Then, Yukana realizes who Nin is and thinks that she is Junichi's little sister. Yukana introduces herself as Junichi's girlfriend and future baby mama, and Nin insults her in a gal accent. Yukana doesn't understand what she's saying, and Nin realizes that her impersonation of a gal is weird. Nin starts thinking of what she has that is better than Yukana's, and she realizes something. She tells Yukana to crouch, and Nin pushes her melons at her to show her dominance. Instead of getting intimidated, Yukana is amazed at seeing her melon size and asks Ranko to join them in a three-way pillow fight. They start pushing their melons with each other, blessing us simple creatures with a sight to behold while the girls enjoy themselves. Watching the battle, Junichi starts questioning the nature of war and thinks to himself that the sight he is seeing could end all wars and start world peace with the Battle of the Fat Jugs as the foundation. Meanwhile, Nin starts feeling good about herself and pulls back from the girls. She tells Yukana that the only reason a girl like her would date a wimp like Junichi is that she wants to pump him and dump him afterward. Yukana asks her why she thinks that way, and Nin answers that it's because she knows him longer than anyone. Then Yukana tells Nin that while Junichi is a wimp, he has some great qualities that would get him a girlfriend, and that Nin should know that better than anyone. Nin gets put in her place and runs away crying. At night, Junichi is watching Yu's stream, and Junichi thinks to himself that he needs to learn more about gals. Later, Nin gets into his bed and gets on top of him while being naked. She puts Junichi's hand on her melons and tells him that this is the only thing she's good for. She begs him to make some sweet love to her and tempts him with her gigantic badonkadonk. She whispers that she wants him to make her a woman and starts licking his ear. She puts her hand on his crotch, awakening his inner beast. Junichi's subconscious starts fighting between his Chad Junichi and Simp Junichi. Simp Junichi whips out his gigantic sausage, while Chad Junichi shows a path of staying loyal to Yukana. Chad Junichi transforms into a Super Saiyan and battles Simp Junichi. Chad Junichi lands his majestic attacks and beats Simp Junichi. Then they decide that Junichi is committed to losing his virginity to Yukana and no one else. Junichi covers up Nin's body and tells her that he's not a simp.
You liar!
Nin tells him that she wants him to lay the pipe, but Junichi refuses by saying that he will not use her feelings for his pleasure. Junichi doesn't want to see Yukana sad, and Nin starts crying. She remembers the past when she told Junichi that she would become his bride one day, and Junichi accepted her proposal. Then, Nin puts her clothes back on and leaves the room. The next day, Yukana asks Junichi what's wrong while putting her body on him, but he shows no reaction to her. Then she pushes his head on her melons and finally gets the reaction that she wanted. Junichi realizes that she is worried about him. Suddenly, Nin shows up and declares war on Yukana. She tells her that she will become a cooler gal than her to steal Junichi away. A few days later, Shinpei shows Junichi about the king's game and encourages Junichi to use the game to get closer to Yukana. They pitch in an idea to play the king's game with Yukana and her friends at her house, where they will manipulate the game so Junichi can get what he wants from Yukana. Later at lunch, Junichi is thinking about how to let him go to her house, completely ignoring Yukana. She's upset that he didn't listen to what she said to him. Then she tells him that they should do something together for summer break. Then he gathers the courage and asks her if he can come to her house after school, which shocks Yukana. She starts getting nervous about what could happen and agrees. She starts thinking about what positions they would do, but Junichi ruins the mood by wanting to invite other people as well. He asks her why she's angry, but Junichi's dumb head can't read the situation. Later, they find out that Ranko and the others won't be going to Yukana's house directly. Junichi imagines him being alone with his girlfriend, and Yukana starts undressing herself and shows him her curves. She then offers him to do a quickie before the others arrive. While daydreaming, Junichi looks like a deranged patient and creeps out others around him. Yua shows up and starts interrogating him on why he was wiggling like a happy little worm. Junichi spills the beans on his plans of hanging out with the others at Yukana's house, and Yua starts playing dumb for him to invite her. She tells him that she's free for the day, but Junichi can't take a hint. He starts asking himself why she keeps telling him that she's free, and eventually invites her to come with them. Then, Yukana shows up and Junichi tells her that he invited Yua, which annoys Yukana even more as she wants to be alone with him. At Yukana's house, Junichi is waiting outside her room like a loyal dog. Yukana tells him that she is going to change clothes, but he can peek if he wants to. She tells Junichi that he doesn't have the balls big enough to peek at her. After hearing that, he almost peeks, but Yukana is already finished and invites him into her room. Junichi is amazed to see how clean her room is, and Yukana tells him to stop looking around, fearing he might find her secret stash of toys. Junichi sits down next to her. He starts admiring Yukana's curves through her clothing and especially her beautiful melons, but Yukana tells him to stop glaring at her jugs. Then she asks him if he likes her marshmallows that much and starts tempting him to make a move. He realizes his idiotic mistake by inviting others when this could have been his big chance to get lucky. He gets closer to jiggle her jugs but gets blocked by Ranko and the others who just arrived. Ranko asks Yukana what were they about to do together, and Yukana tells her that she was just teasing Junichi, but she's not worried as Junichi doesn't have the guts to do anything to her.
It's facts! It's facts!
Nin takes her opportunity and pushes her own melons to Junichi, while Yua knees him in the face for no reason at all. Ranko asks Yua why she's here in the first place, and Yua tells her to mind her own business, putting fuel to the fire. Later the boys arrive, shocking everyone with their costume choices. Shinpei feels proud for wearing a Kirito costume. Meanwhile, Kigo looks like a pimp that is popular with desperate grandmas, who still think they're hip, and Minoru looks like he's on top of the FBI hit list. After they all introduce themselves, Shinpei suggests a special game that they all can play. Shinpei pulls out some sticks and introduces the king's game. Yuet and her sharp instincts accuse them of wanting to do weird things during the game, and it scares the boys from getting their plans exposed. Shinpei convinces her that they are good boys with pure souls, but she's not convinced. Ning sees her chance to do ungodly things to Junichi and supports the game. Then Ranko does the same as she wants to taste Yukana's juices.
That's suspicious.
Shinpei and Kigo start snickering seeing their plans come in motion, while Junichi is worried that it might end horribly. The game starts and Kigo becomes the king in the first round by cheating the game. Kigo orders number 2 to slap number 5, and Ranko slaps Junichi without remorse, leaving a mark on his cheek. Junichi is relieved that his friends didn't do anything degenerate, but Shinpei tells him that he has a plan. Then he starts the next round, and Yukana becomes the king. She orders number 1 to introduce themselves like a baby. Yua glitches as it's her number, and starts introducing herself like a baby. Yukana and Ranko think she's funny, while Shinpei and Kigo smile deviously. Then it's round 3, and Yua becomes the king. Yua orders number 6 to pose like a Playboy model, and it turns out to be Nin. Nin unbuttons her shirt and squeezes her melons together to pose like a model, and only poses in front of Junichi. She asks him what he thinks and Junichi starts folding. Yua pulls her away, and Yukana tells Junichi to calm down. Then the game continues and it gets crazier by the second. Afterward, Shinpei and Kigo make a plan for the next round for Junichi and Yukana to kiss. Shinpei shows him the trick to ensure that he will get the king and kiss Yukana. Junichi starts doubting whether he should kiss his girlfriend in a game, making him feel less of a man. Then they start the next round and Shinpei becomes the king. Shinpei orders number 1 to kiss him, while number 2 French kisses number 3. The girls start rejecting his orders, but Shinpei demands that they follow his order as the king's orders are absolute. It turns out that all the dudes get the number, and Shinpei realizes that Junichi chickens out from their initial plan. Junichi changes it as he doesn't want the girls to touch any of the dudes' crusty lips, and Shinpei cries in horror. Then the girls start encouraging the boys to show how manly they are by kissing each other.
What?
Yuet pushes Junichi to kiss Shinpei, who's in pain, while Minoru doesn't hesitate and French kiss Kigo. They start imagining the girls to numb their pain. Afterward, the boys are slumped after what they did, while the girls bonded after the show they just watched. Yukana goes to Junichi and thanks him for saving them. Then, Yukana tells them about the summer break and invites all of them to spend it together somewhere. Nin and Junichi tell the others that they are broke, but Yukana makes a suggestion for all of them to get a job together. A few days later, the boys still can't believe they are about to spend their summer with hot girls. They start discussing how to make money fast before the summer break without posting their feet pictures online. Shinpei tells them that he has the perfect job for them. He suggests that he and Kigo work at an anime shop as they are both hardcore smelly otakus, while Minoru will work at a daycare. Then, Shinpei suggests that Junichi work at a cosplay cafe as a kitchen staff. Then, they start working. Shinpei and Kigo work at the anime store under Gus Fring, who works them like horses. Meanwhile, Junichi walks into the cosplay cafe to the girls, calling in their master, as it turns out they all work there. Junichi tells the girls that he will be working there too, and they start getting excited to see him wearing a cosplay that shows his print. He explains that he won't be cosplaying and instead work in the kitchen. Then a random creepy guy walks in and starts staring at the girls. He tells Junichi good luck at his new job as he is the manager. Later, the store opens and the girls get to work. One of the customers asks Yukana to cast a spell to make his food taste better.
What?
And Yukana gives him her spit to add some flavor. Then Nain does the same, which causes the customer to die on the spot out of her cuteness. Yua goes to serve a customer and falls to the floor, showing her panties and blessing Hour in the customer's eyes in the process. Meanwhile, a customer intentionally spills his drink in front of Ranko to get her attention. Ranko pulls out a wipe from her melons and starts wiping the table while jiggling her melons on the customer's face, giving him his money's worth. The customer tells her that he has some of it on his clothes and shows her his raised tent. Ranko tells him that she doesn't provide that kind of service and aims her sword to cut his off wiener. A few days later, Shinpei starts getting good at his job, surpassing the production level of Walter White in his prime. Meanwhile, Junichi walks into a room and sees Yua changing her clothes in a classic misunderstanding scenario.
It is what it is.
She slaps him and leaves a huge mark on his face. Yua tells the others that the manager has some weird kink in terms of costumes. A few days later, the air conditioner is broken. Yukana can't take the heat and drinks Junichi's tasty juice.
You teasing me, you naughty.
Making it an indirect kiss that only virgins would fluster about. She returns the juice to him, and Junichi's heartbeat starts racing as he wants to lick the bottle from top to bottom. Suddenly, Ranko walks in and causes Junichi to drop the bottle on the floor before stepping on the bottle and breaking his heart in the process. At the anime store, Shinpei is promoted to a boss and starts ordering people like he owns the place, while Kigo is confused about how it all happened. Time passes by, and the group works hard to gather the dough they need for their summer break. Then in his room, Junichi goes to bed, thinking about how it's his last day tomorrow, but he forgets that there is a special event as well. The next day, it's a book girl day where they wear costumes and read bedtime stories and smut to customers. Yua grabs one of the books and starts reading it to the others. She reads the book that tells the story of a runaway princess who meets a monster, thinking it's Beauty and the Beast, but only to find out to be Goblin Slayer. Yua can't accept the literature masterpiece and goes to see the manager to complain. Nin opens the book's casings to see that all the books are Walmart versions of various degenerate dirty light novels. Nin starts reading one of the books, which tells the story of a hero who doesn't have powers and gets his powers from a female hero who trades it for days' worth of his love juices, and he ends up becoming the world's greatest hero. Junichi and Yukana start blushing hearing Nin read the book, and Ranko takes the book away from her. Ranko reads the book and starts screaming happy noises like a female cow. Ranko continues reading as the heroine of the book has the power to disappear and starts speaking to random dudes' houses to sniff on their toes when they're sleeping. Meanwhile, Yukana is flustered hearing all of it and counters by reading one of the other books. In her book, the hero is in a 2-on-1 situation with two girls, where he takes turns jumping from the mother and daughter, fulfilling the Alabama dream. Then, Junichi tells her to stop as his mind can't listen to more of the masterpiece anymore. Suddenly, the manager comes in and Junichi starts arguing with him, defending the girls from reading the books to other creepy and stinky men. Yu walks in and hands him a phone call from the owner. He starts apologizing on the phone and tells them that the book reading event has been canceled and that the day will go normally. They'd all start praising Yua for saving them, while Ranko is upset as she wants to read those books some more. Afterward, after getting their wages, Junichi and Yukana go back home. Yukana tells him that he looks so hot in defending the girls against the manager. Junichi asks him what other jobs she would like to partake in, and she declines any chance of her doing OnlyFriends, breaking all of our hearts. She tells him that she would like to work in a karaoke or a family restaurant, and that she wants him to join her. She wants to do more things with him, like spending Christmas and birthdays together, where they can buy presents for each other and wear matching clothes. Suddenly, she stops and asks him that even though they're going to the beach with the others, she also wants to go somewhere, just the two of them. At the beach, the boys are ready and excited to spend the day where girls lay around in their bikinis and get wet from the sea. Ranko shows up in her blue bikini, latching onto her sweet caramel tanned skin. Yua and Nin follow up behind her, showing off their own charms. Nin goes to Junichi and sticks her jugs on him to make him fold. Then Yukana walks in like a supermodel with her glistening skin and bouncy melons, blessing our eyes even with the subpar animations, while Junichi falls in love all over again. Then they start their day and the girls fight over Junichi's attention, but Yukana wins by telling him to play with her in the ocean so they can get wet together.
I'm coming after you.
They play water fight, and Nin jumps on his back so he can feel her plushies on him. Meanwhile, the boys are at land with their meat between their hands. They enjoy themselves by creeping around the beach and recording the girls around them. Junichi and the girls start playing beach volleyball and Ranko sees her chance and smashes the ball to Junichi's face to assert dominance. Then, Ranko asks Yukana to look around for some food, and they both go away. Meanwhile, Nin asks Junichi to make sand castles with her, and Yua tells them that they're not kids anymore but ends up joining anyway. Nin starts jumping and bounces her jugs, while Yua stands in horror as she doesn't have the qualifications to do the same.
That's too damn bad!
During their process of creating a sandcastle masterpiece, Junichi notices that some guys are talking to Yukana and Ranko. Junichi goes to her and starts feeling insecure about himself. Yukana sees Junichi and leaves the other dudes. She tells him that he saved them from the creepy dudes and pushes her melons on him, which sends him into a frenzy. Ranko does the same to sandwich him, and makes it a double pumpy for saving them from the random dudes. Then Yukana asks Junichi to help her put some sun lotion on her, and Junichi sees his chance.
Okay, let's go.
Ranko opens her bikini and asks him to do the same, which makes Yukana jealous. Yukana doesn't want to lose to Ranko and takes off her bikini too. Both girls are lying topless in front of him, and Junichi's virgin brain can't take the pressure as his subconscious starts going crazy in his head. Then Junichi awakens his inner beast and starts putting the lotion in his hand. He starts rubbing the thick creamy lotion on both the girls at the same time. Yukana and Ranko start making happy noises to purify our ears and soul. Yukana tells him to go easy on her as she can't take his powerful finger movement, while Ranko begs him to go harder and spurt more of his cream on her back. Meanwhile, the boys are spending their day with no bitches, but Shinpei has a plan. He tells Kigo that his plans need Junichi to work. At dinner, the boys call Junichi to join them at their table. Shinpei tells him about his secret plan. At the end, the girls are preparing for a bath while Shinpei has prepared his spy tools for the night. Junichi tries to convince them to change their mind, but Shinpei and Kigo tell him that he's not a real man if he doesn't peek. Kigo asks him if he doesn't want to see Yukana's pepperonis, but he tells them that he wants it more than anybody, hence why he wants to make it special. At the bath, the girls start worrying about the chance of a peeping Tom, but Ranko assures them that the inn has top security as it is guarded by Nick Fury himself. Ranko starts getting frisky and plays with Yukana's melons, but Yukana throws Neen under the bus and tells Ranko that Neen has the bigger jugs. Ranko goes to Neen to give her a little checkup before putting her hands all over her giant pumpkins. Yukana joins in and starts playing with Neen as well, making it a 2-on-1. Meanwhile, Yua is in the corner by herself with her tiny cherries, but then Yukana shows her some love too. Yukana tells her that she's happy that she's there, and Yua goes feral before starts playing with Yukana's melons. Meanwhile, in the woods, the boys are on their spy mission and find a trap set by the innkeeper. Junichi sees his chance to blow the mission and intentionally walks into it. It turns out the trap is fake and was set up by Shinpei as a loyalty test. They start shooting at Junichi with their airsoft gun and chase him down. Junichi keeps running and ends up falling from a cliff. After getting rid of Junichi, the boys continue their mission and run into actual traps. Kigo tells Shinpei to fall back, but Shinpei refuses as their goal is close to reality. They start channeling their inner Neo and pass all the traps, but suddenly, Shinpei is hit by arrows and dramatically falls into Kigo's arms. He tells Kigo to continue the mission at all costs and hands him a camera to record the masterpiece. Kigo goes and steps into a landmine that triggers fireworks that the girls are enjoying from their bath. Later, Junichi wakes up on Yukana's lap, and she tells him that they found him sleeping on the beach, while the other boys are knocked out in their room. They sit to enjoy the view, and Yukana tells him that she's happy about going on this trip. Junichi gathers his mana and asks her to go again, with just the two of them. Yukana blushes and asks him what his dream date would be, and he answers a romantic night at an amusement park. They get chummy with each other, while Ranko and the others watch in jealousy, watching themselves getting cucked. A few days later, they run into Yukana's middle school friend Dai, who is a handsome Squidward-looking ass. He starts catching up with Yukana about their old days and invites her to have a meal with their other middle school friends. She accepts his invitation, while Junichi is in the background feeling insecure about himself. Junichi channels his inner Drax and disappears from thin air. Dai asks Yukana, with a wimp in the back it is in Yukana, introduces him as her boyfriend. Dai starts grinning, while Junichi nervously introduces himself. Then they leave and Dai lick his lips, wanting to take her.
Brother,
Junichi wonders what kind of relationship Yukana had with him, and starts imagining Yukana getting rizzed up by Dai before he kisses her. He starts banging his head on a street sign, and later he asks her about him. Junichi tells Yukana that he feels insecure in comparison to Dai, and that she is embarrassed to introduce him to Dai. Yukana steps back and asks if he really thought that. Junichi says yes, and Yukana runs home upset. At night, he watches Yua streaming, and she talks about her fun during the trip. The next day, the boys are the same after seeing the girls in their swimsuits. Shinpei thanks Junichi for the trip, but Junichi is slumped on his desk. Shinpei turns into a Chad and tells him to pour his heart out to him, and the boys and Junichi explains what happened. After he tells them about Dai, Shinpei becomes a simp and tells him about cucking. He tells Junichi that he likes seeing his girl getting it on with another dude, and that Dai probably has a magical dingus that would make Yukana scream his name. Junichi calls Shinpei an idiot as he doesn't have that kind of fetish. Then Yukana walks into class and ignores Junichi completely. Shinpai warns him that if he doesn't take action, Junichi will get his girl taken away from him. Later, Yukana keeps ignoring him and Junichi plans to talk to her after class. Afterward, he tries to talk to her and asks her to go home together. Yukana declines as she wants to hang out with her middle school friends. Yukana leaves him alone, and the boys start laughing at him. Later, the boys spend their time at karaoke while Junichi is still depressed. He sees a girl on the screen and starts licking it, thinking it's Yukana. Shinpei punches him to wake him up. He tells Junichi to stop being a bitch and to apologize to her tomorrow, even if he's not at fault, like what all guys do with their girlfriends. Afterward, Junichi is hyped up for tomorrow. But then, he sees Yukana and Dai together in a cafe. Junichi dissolves into pieces and starts flying to heaven, seeing her girl with another man. The next day, Junichi starts thinking that maybe Yukana was just playing with him, and that he's ready to go back to his old life as a virgin loser. Suddenly, he drops a tear and realizes that he really loves her. Yukana shows up to greet him, and is glad to see him regretting what he did wrong. Junichi tells her about what he saw yesterday and why was she alone with him. She explains that he talked to her after the others were gone to catch up. Junichi doesn't believe a word she's saying and thinks she's cheating. He screams at her that he has had enough of her in playing a virgin like him to fall in love with her. He looks at her to see a remorseful look, and he runs away wondering why she looked at him like that. At school, Junichi and Yukana are not talking to each other, and Yuid notices it. Then, Yu asks him about what happened. Junichi tells her that he doesn't understand Yukana's feelings and why she gated him in the first place, which annoys Yue. He continues about how Yukana was just messing with him, and that it's impossible for a girl like her to really love a guy like him. Yue tells him to shut his mouth and tells him to care more about Yukana's feelings and not be selfish. On his way home, Nin comes jumping on his back. She asks him what's wrong and he tries to deflect, but Nin knows her better than anyone and tells him to spit it out. He tells her what happened, and she tells him to stop being a bitch or else he will be stuck marrying her instead. At night, Junichi watches Yui's stream. Wei starts talking about Junichi and how she fell in love with him, even though he has a girlfriend. Yui starts crying and tells her audience that she wishes for the guy he loves to turn back to being cool and not a wimp. It wakes up Junichi, and he asks the boys to talk tomorrow, while Yukana is depressed and alone in her room. The next day, Yukana talks to the girls about Junichi and starts crying. She breaks down in tears, unable to speak her feelings, and Ranko leaves her, wanting to put his foot up Junichi's cheeks. Meanwhile, Junichi is in a restaurant with the boys, asking them if he's a loser, to which they all agree. Then Ranko barges in to start a beef with Junichi and calls him a pathetic boyfriend who is selfish for making Yukana cry. Suddenly, Junichi agrees and screams to the whole world that he will go to Yukana as he doesn't want anyone else to have her. Ranko is relieved to see that Junichi has balls after all and lets him off. Then Dai and his goons walk into the restaurant to sit close to them. Dai and his goons start talking about how hot Yukana is and how easy it is to get into her skirt. Then, after Dai is done, he will give her to the goons for them to run a train on her.
What the hell is wrong with you, you sick bastard?
Junichi listens and starts remembering all the good times he had with Yukana and starts getting angry. Ranko is about to fight them, but Junichi stops her and deals with it himself. Junichi bravely walks to the wolves' den alone, and Dai starts talking shit to him. Junichi demands Dai to take back his words, but Dai doubles down and says that Yukana is the type to change different men every day. Junichi holds Dai by the collar and tells him that Yukana is not the girl that he thinks she is. Dai has enough and calls his goons to take the argument outside. Then Dai and his goons surround Junichi alone. Junichi attacks him, but Dai dodges his pathetic attempt. Then Junichi pushes him down and starts biting his leg, demanding Dai never go near Yukana again. Dai calls his goons and they start stepping on Junichi, but Junichi refuses to let go of his bite. Junichi bites even harder and Dai starts screaming in pain, demanding Junichi to let go. Junichi tells Dai to promise, and Dai promises to never go near Yukana again.
Lie.
Junichi stupidly believes him and gets a kick to the face. Dai starts kicking Junichi while he's down, saying that he will use Yukana for her body over and over again. Junichi attacks, but Dai kicks him down again. Suddenly, Ranko joins the fight and puts one of the goons in a lock. The goons try to attack her, but Ranko beats the shit out of them like she's Kill Bill. The other goons are scared while Dai approaches her and starts creeping on her body. The goons surround Ranko, but the boys come in and save her as they are a true advocate for protecting women. Shinpei and the others tell Junichi to get up and go to his princess, Gonaka. Junichi tells them he loves them and goes to his girlfriend. Dai tries to stop him, but Ranko and the boys tell him, "You're not going nowhere."
We're going nowhere.
Dai calls more of his goons and they go into battle. Meanwhile, Junichi is running while trying to call her. At the cafe, Yukana ignores him and doesn't answer. Junichi has no choice and texts her to meet him behind school. Nin and Yui start talking shit about Junichi and tell Yukana that she needs to be the top in the relationship. Yukana starts doubting if Junichi really even likes her and not just lusting for her. Nin assures her that while Junichi is an idiot, he has a good heart. Yu asks Yukana if he ever told her how he feels about her. Yukana feels that he might be lying, and Yui tells her to ask him to find out. Yukana thanks them and tells them that she will go to him and find out how he really feels. After Yukana leaves, Nin and Yui start questioning whether it's wise to help the enemy. Meanwhile, Ranko and the boys have wiped the floor with the goons, leaving only Dai standing. Dai starts apologizing and begs for mercy, but Ranko and the boys don't believe him. Suddenly, an annoying little shit shows up and distracts them. Dai sees his chance and runs away, pushing the little kid to the floor. Minoru helps up the little girl and tells her that she's a big, strong girl to calm her down. Dai starts mocking them for being idiots, but Minoru gets up and turns Choji as he believes in protecting the kids. Minoru chases him down, but his boys calm him down, while Ranko catches Dai to stop him. Ranko pushes Dai to a corner and tells him that guys like him pack no meat at all, and she kicks him in the balls to prevent him from creating small meat pieces of shit like him.
Fatality.
Ranko steps on his neck and tells the boys to let Minoru loose. Minoru goes crazy and bites Dai's puny dingus off. Meanwhile, Junichi is waiting for Yukana behind the school where he first confessed his feelings for her. He receives a photo from his boys, showing that the virgins have overcome the Chads and Junichi stays to wait for Yukana. He starts remembering everything good that has happened to him and realizes that Yukana is at the center of it all. Yukana shows up and Junichi goes to his knees and asks her to go out with him. He tells her that he's an awful being who at first only wanted to lose his virginity, but has changed. He tells her that he loves her, and Yukana asks him what he loves about her. He starts telling her how much he loves every single good and bad thing about her, from the way she smiles to all the way she cries. Yukana falls in love with him all over again and tells him to get up. She asks him to go on a date with her right now, and he agrees. Later they meet up and Yukana wears the clothes that he picked for her. She asks him what he thinks about it, and he tells her that she looks perfect. She pulls him and takes him to an amusement park, just like what he told her. He feels blessed by the plot gods for being able to have a 10 out of 10 like her to date him.
Should have been me!
Later, they go on various rides as a couple in their own little world. Afterward, they take a break, breathing in the air to calm them down. Then, Yukana pulls him to a photo booth, and Junichi notices all the couples around. Suddenly, Yukana disappears and Junichi goes looking for her and accidentally walks into a couple kissing inside the booth. Junichi starts thinking that Yukana wants to do the same and she shows up behind him. Then, they go into a booth and the booth tells them to take a kissing photo. Yukana asks him to do it, and he agrees but only to get tricked into making a duck face in the photo. Afterward, they go to enjoy the view and Yukana hands him the picture that she will also use as her ammunition for her night fun time. She goes closer to him and tells him that she wants to go back with him next year and all the years that come after. Then, he asks her why she believes in him so much. She tells him it's a secret, and she goes for a deep and luscious kiss using her soft lips. Yukana runs away, leaving Junichi bamboozled. On her run, Yukana starts blushing as she can't believe how much of a simp she is and smiles. The next day, on his way to school, Junichi thanks Yui for her advice from the other day, and she tells him that it was all him that managed to fix his own issues. Then, Junichi asks her if she streams on OnlyFriends, and she changes the subject.
Mission failed. We'll get him next time.
Nin jumps on Junichi and tells him that he suddenly looks more handsome, and Yui gets curious as well. Ranko shows up with Yukana by her side and she starts shooting googly eyes to Junichi, to which he gives it to her back. The girls notice that something happened and ask him how long he lasted, but Yukana pulls him away from the other hook and runs away with him for their happily ever after. If you watched this anime recap and made it to the end, comment "Virgins don't lose their virginity because they never lose." If you like anime recaps like this, watch this video.